the result of a long-standing clan feud, or were there other factors at work? Based on the official Commission of Inquiry into the massacre and on the historian John Preble's seminal book Glencoe, Adrian Bean's play dramatises these tragic 17th century events. Murder Under Trust, the massacre at Glencoe.
In February 1692, soldiers of King William III's army, under the command of Captain Robert Campbell of Glenlyon, marched into the small Scottish Highland community of Glencoe, home of the MacDonald clan. The troops were recruited from the Campbell lands of Argyll, and although the Campbells and MacDonalds had been bitter enemies for centuries, for 2 weeks the soldiers lived as guests of the MacDonald clan chief, Red Alistair MacIan. But at dawn on Saturday, February 13th, acting under signed orders, the soldiers put the village to the sword. In less than 2 hours, at least 38 men, women and children were dead, and the name of Glencoe passed into infamy. Four weeks earlier, in London, Sir John Dalrymple, Master of Stair and the Secretary of State for Scotland, had issued the orders for the army to attack the MacDonald clan, whose chief had been given a chance to swear loyalty to the king and who had failed to do so in time. The orders, signed by King William himself, were intended to punish the disloyal MacDonalds who were Jacobite supporters and to encourage other clan chiefs to swear their loyalty without delay. But the severity of the attack and the circumstances of betrayal in which it took place, men, women and children murdered by soldiers who had been allowed to share their homes, led to widespread condemnation. Only a few weeks after the massacre, pamphlets describing the killings and alleging a conspiracy involving names at the highest levels were circulating in the coffeehouses of London and Edinburgh. For 3 years, the government did nothing, while the king concerned himself with his military campaigns on the continent. But in the spring of 1695...
An inquiry? Why should I order an inquiry?
There are many who feel those responsible for the slaughter should be brought to book, Your Majesty.
In an office in Kensington Palace, nearly 500 miles from Glencoe, the Master of Stair advises the king on his options.
What does it all matter anyway? I am the king. I demand loyalty. They refused to swear an oath and paid the price.
My lord, it's not that anybody thinks the thieving tribe did not deserve to be destroyed, but that it should have been done by such as were quartered amongst them, unfortunately makes a great noise. And now there are calls for a debate in the Scottish Parliament.
Well, we won't allow it. Who do they think they are?
My lord, it might be preferable to keep Edinburgh on our side and for you to remain above this disagreeable quarrel. Tongues are already wagging, and soon fingers will point. But the best way to ensure you get the answers you want is to ask the questions yourself.
And so, in April 1695, King William orders a commission of inquiry.
Lord Tweedale!
A commission of inquiry to take trial by what warrants and in what manner the Glencoe men were killed. And for that end to call for all persons, letters and any other writings that may give any light in it, to examine witnesses that there may be a full discovery of the facts.
On Saturday, 7th June, a few days into the inquiry, Colonel John Hill, making a show in scarlet and gold, stands before the Marquess of Tweeddale, head of the commission, in Parliament Hall, Holyrood House. Until recently an earl, The Marquess elevation demonstrates a considerable degree of royal trust.
Cardinal Hill, you are the governor of Lochaber and commanding officer of Fort William at Inverlochy. Is that correct?
Yes, my lord.
And you held those same offices at the time of the massacre?
Yes, my lord. I was commissioned to build and fortify the garrison at Fort William in the summer of 1690, some 18 months before My long experience in the army and my understanding of the peculiar ways of the Highlanders qualified me for the task.
And your purpose?
The garrison was established a year after the defeat at Killiecrankie to ensure once and for all a strong military presence in the Highlands.
The Battle of Killiecrankie on July 27, 1689, saw King William's forces suffer a major defeat at the hands of a Highland clan army loyal to the recently deposed Catholic monarch James II. Despite losing in the subsequent action at Dunkeld, the Jacobite chiefs remained a threat.
To William and Mary.
William and Mary.
Colonel Hill's quarters, Fort William, Inverlochy, summer 1690.
And will their majesties be drinking to us, do you think? Defending their honour in this god-forsaken hole?
Steady, Hamilton. I'll not hear Fort William described so.
It's what you believe, if you'll not admit it. The men are poor and good for nothing. Those we don't lose to disease desert for want of pay. And the only things to get a decent meal round here are the midges feeding on us.
We are soldiers. We serve the king and we have our orders.
To wipe out the barbarous and rebellious hordes of Highlanders.
Forgive me, Forbes. No. To create the conditions favourable to a maintenance of peace and the rule of law.
Well, I wish London would let us get on with it.
My dear Hamilton, when I was young Forbes' age, it was my honour to serve in these lands with Oliver Cromwell's army. My experiences then taught me this, that the iron fist alone is not enough when seeking to control the barbarous and rebellious hordes, as Forbes puts it. The King's army must operate with the understanding and consent of the local clan chiefs and the population, however savage they may be regarded in the civilised squares of London and Edinburgh.
To hear the Colonel speak, one might be forgiven for thinking there were no clan wars, that the daily thieving and destruction of men's property and lives were a mere distraction. If we are to bring Scotland into the modern world, we must stamp this lawlessness out.
I agree, sir. People must know that they can travel this land without fear of being attacked, robbed or murdered, and equally, those who would commit those crimes must know that they would be punished.
Exactly so, but the force used must at all times be proportionate.
Why then, Colonel, are we discussing the murder of 38 innocent men, women and children at Glencoe? A slaughter carried out by 120 men under your command? Does that sound proportionate?
No, sir, it does not. If I may speak for a moment in my own defence, my lords, in the year leading up to my work in treating the clan chiefs with respect was bearing fruit. I believe by regular shows of military exercises to demonstrate that the army was ready and able to respond with strength if necessary. The hills of Lochaber remained as peaceable as the streets of Edinburgh.
Why then was your advice ignored?
I believe there were other forces at work. Powerful men in London and here in Edinburgh, meddling and manipulating events to further their own ambitions.
A conspiracy, Colonel?
I believe so. Yes.
In August 1691, with King William focused on fighting a war against Louis XIV of France, the Master of Stair had attempted to bring the rebellious Scottish clan chiefs into line by ordering them to swear an oath of indemnity to William. Under pain of death, and with no exceptions, the chiefs were required to swear the oath before the sheriff of their district by the end of the year.
Sir Thomas Livingston, my lord.
Sir Thomas, please. I'll be with you in a moment. This letter goes to the King immediately, and make 2 copies. My apologies, Sir Thomas, please.
Born in Holland, Sir Thomas Livingstone came to England with William when he landed at Brixham in 1688 to claim the throne, and soon after was given his present title and appointed Commander-in-Chief of the army.
News?
I have received a letter from Colonel Hill at Fort William.
Oh, not another. What's the old woman complaining of now?
The oath of indemnity, my lord. He believes that the clan chiefs will never sign it while under the threat of death. He says we should offer them rewards for coming in.
I would have thought that the prospect of not losing one's head was reward enough.
Hill says the chiefs are proud, that they need to maintain the respect of their peoples. If they're seen to bow before King William, it will be a dishonour, a shame to them.
Sounds like Hill has gone native. And have any of the chiefs come in yet?
None, my lord, but there is yet time. They have until the end of the year.
If that was what we wanted, Sir Thomas. But suppose we do not want the clans to submit.
But the oath?
Consider the oath a device, nothing more. If the chiefs do not swear, it will give us the cause to destroy them. The threat they pose to the king's peace must be removed once and for all. Even if some were to take the oath by the day set, hostages should be taken from them. All must be taught a harsh and brutal lesson, but let the MacDonalds bear the brunt of it. They are the only popish clan in the kingdom, and it will be popular to take a severe course with them.
Yes, my lord.
Leave Hill to his bleating. He's not our man. We can't rely on him when the time comes.
Hamilton, his deputy, speaks our language, my lord.
You're sure he's to be trusted?
He's ambitious, eager for preferment. He'll do anything to prove himself.
Cultivate him. He could be useful.
And Colonel Hill, did you receive a reply from the Commander-in-Chief?
No, my lord. Instead, Sir Thomas saw fit to march extra troops from the south to Inverness and to my garrison.
But you had requested extra troops, had you not?
Yes, but...
And this was in?
Early December, 2 months before the massacre.
Did you get any sense that a massacre was being planned?
One heard rumours, but nothing specific and nothing new.
And were these suspicions shared by the clan chiefs?
Possibly. But they had other reasons for not coming in.
For months, each unwilling to bear the indignity of being the first to swear the oath, the clan chiefs kept their heads down. But as the deadline drew near and more troops arrived at the Highland garrisons, they sensed a real threat and began to move. On the 30th of December, in his winter residence of Carnoch, Alistair MacIan, chief of the Clan MacDonald in Glencoe, entertained a visitor, Sir Ewan Cameron of Lochiel.
I can't stay, Alistair. I must make Inverary by tomorrow.
You're never taking the oath, Ewan.
Aye. Things will change in the spring. King James will return and then it'll all be different.
But go down on bended knee to a Campbell. Have you no pride? What'll you tell your folk?
I'll tell him the truth. That today we're King Billy's men, and tomorrow will be King James's again. They'll moan, sure, but better that than have a company of redcoats come knocking at my door. Heed my advice, Alistair. Take the oath.
And did MacIan swear?
He did, and he did not, my lord.
A Highland gentleman to see you, Colonel.
Show him in, Forbes.
Colonel Hill?
MacIan, God bless you, man.
I didn't think you'd know me. It's 30 years since last we met.
The red hair is white now, but the moustache and beard are just as proud as when you were young. 30 years. But what am I thinking? You must be freezing. Come by the fire, and will you have a glass of wine?
I appreciate your offer of hospitality, but I'm here on business. I have come to swear the oath. Will you administer it, that I may have King William's indemnity?
Alistair, I cannot.
Before the end of the year, that was the demand. Tonight is the 30th of December, is it not?
It is.
Then
but...
I am in time.
Alistair, I am a soldier.
The governor of Lochaber, and an honourable man. There's no shame in submitting to you.
But the proclamation was clear. The oath must be taken in the presence of the sheriff of the shire. You must go before Campbell of Ardkinglass at Inverary.
You know I cannot do that, John. God knows it's hard enough for me to swear loyalty to a Dutchman and a Protestant to boot, but to do it before a Campbell...
I understand, of course. But think of the danger you place yourself and your people in by not playing their game. Secretary Stair does not make idle threats, nor the king.
You will not hear me swear then?
My friend, I cannot. You must turn round and go to Inverary with all haste. You have little over 24 hours to go 70 miles, and even in fine weather I doubt you'd make it. But this letter asks Ardkin Lass to receive you as a lost sheep, and it gives you and your people my protection. It's all I can do.
Thank you, my friend.
You're a proud man, Alistair. Maybe too proud for your own good. Go now. Godspeed. And good luck.
And was the lost sheep received?
He was, but too late. MacIan had, in all honesty, tried to do what was required of him. But it is good to bring in a lost sheep at any time.
The proclamation allowed him 4 months to act. One might be forgiven for mistaking MacIan's tardiness for lack of purpose or insolence.
On the 5th of January, in Inverary Courthouse, Alistair MacIan, clan chief of the MacDonalds of Glencoe, his gillies behind him, his bonnet cocked and his head up, stands before his old adversary, Campbell of Ardkinglas.
I have ridden 70 miles through wind and snow and waited while you feasted in your hall. Colonel Hill testifies that I submitted in all honesty to take the oath before the year was out. You have his letter.
The sheriff and the court stare at MacIan with astonished disbelief. MacDonald of Glencoe, proudest of the proud, is weeping.
Now administer the oath to me, and upon my honour I promise you that I shall order all my people to do the same.
Moved by the nakedness of the Highlander's fear and the strength of his courage, Campbell of Ardkinglas takes MacIan's oath and writes to Colonel Hill.
I endeavoured to receive the great lost sheep of Glencoe, and he has undertaken to bring in all his friends and followers as the Privy Council shall order. I am sending word to Edinburgh that Glencoe, though he was mistaken in coming to you to take the oath of allegiance, might yet be welcome. Take care that his friends and followers do not suffer till the King and Council's pleasure be known.
On the 7th of January 1692, a week after the deadline, the Master of Stair writes to Sir Thomas Livingston, Commander-in-Chief of the Army.
My Lord Argyle tells me that Glencoe hath not taken the oath in time, at which I rejoice. It's a great work of charity, to be exact, in rooting out the damnable horde, the worst in all the Highlands. You are hereby ordered and authorised to march our troops, which are now posted at Inverlochy and Inverness, and to act against these Highland rebels, who've not taken the benefit of our indemnity.
By fire and sword and all manner of hostility, to burn their houses, seize or destroy their goods or cattle, plenishings or clothes, and to cut off the bail.
I did remember the King today that you're now 12-month a brigadier and longer commander-in-chief of his forces there, which must occasion you to be at greater expense, and yet you have no more than a colonel's pay.
Thank you, my lord.
Major Duncanson's column from Inverary. 400 fresh troops. Now we can get on with the job. Colonel Hill, you will issue the orders to march on Glencoe.
Not yet. We wait.
Wait, sir?
I will not order the murder of innocent people, Hamilton. I have written to Secretary Stair, reminding him that Glencoe is loyal. Until I hear from Stair, we wait.
You waited?
It was all I could do. I knew what Stair's intention was and what Livingston had ordered.
You are a soldier, and you had your orders.
As a soldier, I could not disobey orders, but as a man and a Christian, I could not carry them out. I did not know what to do.
Unknown to Hill, Sir Thomas Livingston, the Commander-in-Chief, also writes a private letter to Hill's deputy, Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton.
Sir, here is a fair occasion for you to show that your garrison serves for some use. And seeing that the orders are so positive, from court to me, not to spare any of them that have not sworn the oath.
I desire you would begin with Glencoe, destroying all which does not belong to him, and do not trouble the government with prisoners.
Behind Colonel Hill's back, Hamilton orders Captain Robert Campbell of Glenlyon to march a company of men to Glencoe. But without the nerve to authorise the massacre himself, Hamilton tells them a lie, that they are to prepare to attack a neighbouring clan chief, Glengarry, when the weather improves. Meanwhile, they're to take quarters in Glencoe and await further orders.
Lieutenant Lindsay, hold the men.
Sergeant! Halt! Company! Halt! Order your muskets. Order your pikes.
A little over a mile outside Glencoe, beyond the mouth of Glown an Ewe, the Valley of Wood, Campbell of Glenlyon's men blow on their freezing fingers and watch the small group of Highlanders blocking the road ahead.
There's less than a dozen, sir. Shall I deal with them?
And twice as many again in the trees watching us.
You're right, sir. I can't see any weapons, though.
You won't, but they'll be armed to the teeth. Take my word for it. Well, off you go, Lindsay, and try to be civil.
Sir.
Is that Glenlyon? They say the Laird of Glenlyon could almost match my father for height. He sent his minion to do the talking.
There must be 100 soldiers, John.
More, and half of them with muskets.
What do they want?
Lieutenant Lindsay of the Earl of Argyll's regiment. To whom do I have the honour?
John MacDonald, eldest son of Alistair Macian, chief of Clan Ian Abrach. This is John of Inveregan. You have many soldiers at your back. Do you come as friends or enemies?
As friends, of course. My orders... hold your weapons. I only meant to show you these papers.
Down, boys.
On my honour, no harm is intended your people. My orders. Signed by Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton of Fort William. Shall I read them for you?
I can read. I'm not a savage, whatever you may think. Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton demands quarters in Glencoe for 2 companies of the King's Foot. Demands indeed.
MacDonald, how is my Sarah? It's been too long since the wedding.
She is well, Captain Campbell.
Good. Good. Well, this is something of a family gathering, I suppose. Lieutenant Lindsay is my wife's cousin.
Sir.
I told you, Lindsay, that my niece Sarah married this fellow's brother. Well, here are bad times when men must impose themselves upon others' hospitality in dreadful weather, eh? The papers are all in order. I do not have to remind you 'tis the Highland way to ask for bed and comfort as a gentleman and a friend. Will you refuse me hospitality?
Of course not. You and your men are welcome in Glencoe.
Good. Good. Well, let's get going. I'm catching my death out here.
Sergeant! Up, hooray! Okay, set! Shoulder muskets! Shoulder pikes! March! Was the officer commanding these troops the same Captain Campbell, who only a few months later was to be heard boasting in the Edinburgh coffee houses of his part in the massacre?
I believe I have heard rumours.
And the same Robert Campbell of Glenlyon, whose lands had been pillaged by the Glencoe men only 3 years earlier.
On their way home after their defeat at Dunkeld, yes.
And the soldiers, like the captain, were Campbells.
Many of them, yes. The regiment was raised in Argyll, Campbell land.
So, he and the MacDonalds had history.
In the Highlands in these times, all men have history, as I am sure my lords are aware.
Captain Campbell, Lieutenant Lindsay. You and your men are welcome in Glencoe. My home is your home.
Thank you.
How is Colonel Hill? He was suffering with terrible aches when I saw him in December.
The Colonel's as well as can be expected for a man of his age.
Yes, he gave me his personal guarantee of protection. I swore the oath of indemnity as required.
So I understand.
We both understand then. Please, come inside. My wife is waiting.
Sir, will I wait here?
No. I want you by my side.
Thank you, Helen. Gentlemen, to our friendship.
Friendship.
You don't care for my wine, Captain?
It is from France.
My wife only serves the best.
I'm sure she does. I was admiring the wine glass. Fine craftsmanship.
Thank you. I forget how I came by it, but that's of no matter, is it?
Of course, no matter.
Now, how long will you stay with us, Captain?
My orders are to wait for the weather to improve, then I march on the renegade Glengarry.
I see. Until then, you will be a guest in my house, you and your lieutenant?
I thank you, no. I could not impose on your hospitality.
It would be no imposition, I assure you, and only fitting.
I am sure my officers and I will find appropriate quarters elsewhere in the village, madam. And now, if you'll forgive me, I have work. Lindsay?
Yes, sir. Sir? Madam.
Do you trust him, Father?
No, of course not. But I trust John Hill, and he has guaranteed our safety. Keep an eye on that fellow and his men.
A mile and a half up the glen, on the meadow at Glencoe, a tiny hamlet of houses at the foot of Muir Moor.
Redcoats! Mother, why are they here?
Get inside, Neil.
Mother!
What is it? Now!
Callum! Campbell! In here! Quickly!
No. I'll not have a Campbell in my house.
Oh, you will and you like it.
On whose say-so?
You're big man's.
Well, I'll see about that.
Good luck. Right, lads. Find yourself a corner. You three men, follow me.
Morning, miss.
By the fire'll do me.
That's where I sleep.
Like I say, that'll do me.
McCallum.
Here then.
That's my bed.
Well, I only want something to keep me warm at night.
Get in with the pigs where you belong then, McCallum.
They'll kick him out and all. Very choosy pigs.
Shut your mouth, Campbell.
I'm sorry, miss. No manners, the McCallums. Do you mind if
Aye, I do. You stay here, Neil. Mind they don't steal anything.
So much for MacDonald hospitality.
I understand how you feel, Evelyn.
Do you?
I knew your husband well. We fought together. Adam was a good man.
Killed by a Campbell knife in the back. And now you expect me to share my hearth with a Campbell?
It is my father's wish. Nobody wants to see the redcoats in the village, but they will only be here a few days and they mean no harm.
So you believe?
Evelyn, you're speaking out of turn. We're all under the King's protection, you know that.
I'm sorry. I have a bad feeling.
My father is many things, but he's not stupid. Go home, Evelyn. Do your duty. Look after these men as if they were your own family.
As you wish.
3 jacks and a queen.
3 kings. Thank you.
More wine, sir?
I will, thank you.
This place is not so bad. Warm and dry, at least.
It stinks.
I am surprised you did not accept McKeon's offer to lodge with him in the big house.
Really? Did you not see the way the old man was laughing at us? Flaunting my cattle and my plate, looted by his men before they torched my house. There's a fine red stallion in his stables that cost me a pretty penny before he swiped it.
I suppose he'd count that fair return for the raiding of his lands by the Campbells.
Spoken like a true lowlander, Lindsay. Before Killiecrankie, I had everything. And then the MacDonalds came, and here I am on 8 shillings a day. McKeon ruined me. And you think I should forgive and forget?
It is the Christian way, sir.
Never in 1,000 years. Just pray to God that we'll be out of here soon.
Meanwhile, at Fort William, Colonel Hill's second in command, Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton, meets with Major Duncanson.
Glenlyon's men are safely quartered.
McKeon welcomed them with open arms, sir.
And Glenlyon?
He suspects nothing.
And you're confident he's our man?
He hates the MacDonalds with a vengeance. We can count on him, I'm sure.
Good. Because great men are inclined to sacrifice their servants when their plans go amiss. If things go wrong, Duncanson, I'll not take the blame.
Pass me those breeches.
Here you go, Mary.
I'll do them.
Hide your firearms! Cover your firearms! Right!
Are they going to make that racket all day?
Probably. Oh. How many did they dump on you, Evelyn?
3.
Huh? That's not fair. I've got 5 of the smelly brutes. Still, some of them are quite good looking.
Oh, away with you, Mary.
Come on, you 3 soldiers! Prove yourselves and get the flare on!
Aye, well, they'll be gone soon enough. Soon as the weather lifts, they say.
Aye, till then we'll just have to put up with it.
Aye, and pity the poor Campbells, who know no better than to dress in red coats and do what they're told by the English.
I will not be forced into signing the order.
10 days my men have waited, cooped up in that miserable hole. They waited while it was snowing. Fair enough. But now the weather is fine.
I am waiting.
We have waited enough. I have 400 men under Major Duncanson waiting at Ballachulish, and 400 more ready to make the journey south under my command. We are ready to carry out our instructions, but you will not sign the order.
I am waiting for a reply to my letter of 3 weeks ago. When it is known that McKeon came in to swear the oath, that his people will come in with him, this demand for blood will be calmed. Until then, I will not sign an order condemning 300 innocent people to death.
Hey, Neil, isn't it? Ah, you're a dab hand with the old wooden claymore there, Neil. You're going to be like your father when you're older.
Aye, and kill Campbells.
I asked for that, I suppose. Neil, I know how you feel about me and my folk.
How could you?
Because my father was killed too.
By the MacDonalds?
No, by the English.
How?
It was a long time ago. He was a brave man, so my mother told me. But I don't hold every Englishman I meet responsible for his death. How could I?
That why you wear the red coat and fight for the English?
No. I needed a job and the King's shilling was the only one going. I'll get rid of this red coat and be off as soon as I've saved enough money.
Off where?
To Virginia. America. To a new life.
Neil, come away.
Evelyn, I was just...
I know what you were doing. Neil, come away home now. You're to stay under my roof. There's nothing I can do about that. But I don't have to like you. And neither does my son. Stay away.
For 2 weeks, the villagers and soldiers rub along together, each wary of the other. At night, when the sergeants have mounted the watch, Campbells and MacDonalds gather by the peat fires in the cottages, dark tartan and red broadcloth lit by the flames of the resinous pine knots which the Highlanders call fir candles, or by smoking lamps of mutton fat. They sing songs of the glens, carefully chosen airs that would give no offence to a host or a guest. They tell tales of Fingal, of hunting the white hind of Rannoch, of wild boar and the last wolf to be killed. They get drunk and they brag, and they stare at each other through the peat smoke, their eyes red-rimmed and smiling.
Yon Campbell's taken quite a shine to you.
Don't be daft.
A widow could do worse.
Even a Campbell.
Even a Campbell. Look at Red Alistair's son, young Sandy. He married a Campbell from Glenlyon.
Aye.
If he's giving you the eye, don't knock him back, all I'm saying. Young Neil needs a dad, you know.
But riding through that same night, Friday, 12th February, an officer of Colonel Hill's regiment reaches Fort William, exhausted.
Letter for Colonel Hill.
You cannot receive further directions. Be as earnest in the matter as you can. Be secret and sudden, and quick.
Oh God.
This letter was from the Secretary of State?
Yes, my lord the Master of Stair.
And you signed the order?
To Lieutenant Colonel James Hamilton. As an officer in the King's Army, I swore an oath to be a true, faithful and obedient soldier, in every way performing my best endeavours for their Majesty's service, obeying all orders and submitting to all such rules and articles of war as are or shall be established by their Majesties. So help me God. Sir, you are with 400 of my regiment, and the 400 of my Lord Argyle's regiment under the command of Major Duncanson, to march straight to Glencoe.
But the laws of God and nature are above those of men. If you had refused to sign the order...
Hamilton would have signed it himself anyway. He was young, headstrong and ambitious, happy to spill Highland blood to gain the command he thought I was unfit to have. And he had the protection of the Master of Stair. After so many years, so brief a time in authority, I could not endure that indignity. And there put in due execution the orders you have received from the Commander-in-Chief, given under my hand at Fort William, the 12th February, 1692. John Hill. And for that I am forever ashamed.
At last.
Hamilton immediately writes to Major Duncanson, camped with his men on the north side of the Ballachulish ferry.
You are to order your affairs so that you be at the several posts assigned to you by 7 of the clock tomorrow morning, being Saturday, and fall in action with them, at which time I will endeavour to be with the party from this place at the post appointed them.
The orders are that none be spared, nor the government troubled with prisoners, which is all I have to say to you till then. Sir, your humble servant, James Hamilton. Drummond, make the boats ready. We cross tonight. And Drummond...
Sir?
Be back here in 5 minutes. I'll have a letter for you to take to Glenlyon.
Flush. I told you, my dear, Glenlyon is impossible to read.
In the house of John of Inveregan, his guest, Captain Campbell of Glenlyon, whiles away the evening, as he has for the last 2 weeks, gambling and drinking.
Sir, Captain Drummond.
Drummond?
Captain Thomas Drummond, commander of the Grenadier Company of Argyle's regiment, and Glenlyon's superior officer.
Captain, I'm straight from Ballachulish with new orders for you.
You are hereby ordered to fall upon the rebels, the MacDonalds of Glencoe, and to put to the sword all under 70. You are to have a special care that the old fox and his sons do upon no account escape your hands. This you are to put into execution at 5 of the clock precisely, and by that time, or very shortly after it, I'll strive to be at you with a stronger party. If I do not come to you at 5, you are not to tarry from me, but to fall on.
5 of the clock?
It is not a mistake, my lord. Major Duncanson, who was told by Hamilton to be ready to attack at 7, ordered Glenlyon to begin the killing 2 hours before the others were due to arrive in the glen.
And in case Glenlyon should not have the stomach for the killing.
See that this be put into execution without feud or favour, else you may expect to be dealt with as one not true to the king nor government, nor a man fit to carry commission in the king's service.
Inveregan sees nothing unusual in his guest's demeanour as the captain studies the papers.
Well, Inveregan, your burden is now to be lifted.
No burden at all, I assure you. The night is yet young. Play some more.
I cannot. Thank you for your hospitality. Drummond, Lindsay, outside. This is murder. Cold-blooded murder.
McKean had his chance to swear the oath. Now he and his people are rebels.
But I've broken bread with these people. Now I'm expected to kill them. It's unthinkable. I'm a Highlander myself. I cannot break their trust.
Captain, you read your orders.
And if I choose to ignore them?
Major Duncanson was perfectly clear. Fail in this and you will be ruined. Now it's late. I suggest you let your sergeants know what's expected of them, and be careful. Not a word must slip out.
As the snow falls in the black night, Glenlyon gathers his sergeants and outlines the plan. Lowlanders mostly, they don't share their commander's qualms about betraying their host's trust. Further down the valley, John MacDonald, eldest son of the clan chief, is woken in the early hours by the unmistakable sounds of armed men outside. From his bedroom window, he sees soldiers moving quietly through the village, torches blazing, weapons glinting. Wrapping his plaid about him, he goes out, stumbling against the wind and drifts, up to Inveregan. Here there are more lights, and the soldiers stood at rest, turned their empty faces towards him.
Captain Glenlyon, where is he?
In the house.
Inside, MacDonald finds Glenlyon. Glenlyon with his officers and sergeants, priming muskets and pistols.
What's happening?
I have orders to move on Glengarry.
No, but the weather's closing in again.
Orders are orders.
I should speak to Inverrigan.
No need, they're all asleep upstairs.
In fact, Inverrigan, his family and household lie bound and gagged behind a cowhide curtain only a few feet away.
All the same...
You think we intend Glencoe some ill?
I didn't say that.
Man, if that were my orders, do you think I'd have given no warning to my niece Sarah? Come on, get back to bed.
Taking Glenlyon at his word, John MacDonald returns to his warm bed and his wife. Then, at a little after 4 o'clock in the morning...
Get up. Up, boys. Stand to. Right, all of you. Up, now.
Roused from their sleep in the cottages and steadings scattered across Glencoe, Glenlyon's soldiers are not told what is happening until the last minute.
What's happening? Nothing. Just a drill, I expect. Go back to sleep or you'll wake your mother.
Gather round, lads. Tot a rum for every man. We've got work to do.
As the first glimmers of morning light begin to outline Unnach Igach, Captain Robert Campbell of Glenlyon looks again at his pocket watch.
Gone 5.
Still no sign of Drummond, sir.
Better get started. You know what to do, Lindsay.
Lieutenant Lindsay leads a squad of men up to Carnach, residence of Alistair McKeon, clan chief of the Glencoe MacDonalds.
Lieutenant Lindsay?
Good morning, James. I must speak with Alistair McKeon.
But he's asleep.
Then wake him. Now!
My lord, the Campbell soldiers are leaving for Glengarry. What? The officers wish to thank you for your kindness.
What is it, dear?
Nothing. Get dressed. We'll see our guests off and then back to bed. James, hand me my breeches.
Here's the bastard!
Stop!
Do it!
No!
Do it!
No!
Alistair McKeon lies sprawled across his bed, half-dressed, his face blown away by Lindsay's bullets.
Shut her up!
And as Lieutenant Lindsay runs downstairs, the soldiers strip McKeon's screaming wife of her nightclothes and gnaw the rings from her fingers. The massacre at Glencoe has begun.
Dear God.
Half a mile away, young John MacDonald sits up in bed, no idea that he is now the chief of his people. But he does now know why the soldiers have come to Glencoe.
Wake up. Wake up.
What?
Please, listen to me. Get dressed, get the children and the servants out the back and up the brae to the trees, now!
Right, lads. That's the signal. Do your duty.
I can't.
Look, it's no time to be squeamish, man. You're a Campbell. This is what you've waited for. Your folk will be proud of you.
No.
Where are you going?
Let me through. I must warn them.
And let them squeal. Then we're done for. You heard. No one is to be spared.
No! Evelyn! Neil, get out! Get out! Get out!
We'll deal with him later. Torch the house!
Right.
At Inverrigan, shortly after the first shots are fired, Glenlyon's men drag his host, MacDonald of Inverrigan, out of the house. Still gagged and bound, Inverrigan and his family are thrown on the dung heap, and the last thing Inverrigan sees is Glenlyon's pistol levelled at his head. One by one, the others are also killed. A slow, methodical slaughter with bayonet and musket ball, before the soldiers loot the bodies.
Sir!
What is it?
I've got this in his coat.
Here.
Torch.
A letter from John Hill, Glenlyon's commanding officer, giving the MacDonalds protection and assuring Inveregan that he and his family, his land and stock, are free from harm.
What have we done?
No.
Put young Hyman in the back.
He's mine! On your knees, boy!
No, stand aside!
Oh, I'm sorry. He's all yours.
He's not anybody's. Get up, lad. I said get up! Don't argue, boy. Get out of here.
What's the problem? Glenlyon, why's that boy still alive?
He doesn't need to die.
Our orders were precise. No prisoners. Kill him.
I won't do it.
Problem solved. Get what you can out of the house, lads, and then burn it! You'll answer for this, Glenlyon.
Hearing shots and screams, many villagers instinctively flee for the cover of the trees and further into the hills. Some men and boys pull claymores from their hiding places and rush out into the snow to face the soldiers, but are no match for their muskets. But most are killed brutally, unheroically dragged from their beds, clubbed, hacked, or bayoneted to death. In the freezing night, men, women and children are murdered without pity. High up on the crags of Meow Moor, John MacDonald, joined by his brother Sandy and his family, listen appalled as their father's servant tells them how he died.
And my mother?
I didn't see her dead, but I didn't see her alive.
I'm the chief now. The women and children had better go higher into the hills. The soldiers won't allow any witnesses to this slaughter. It'll be light soon, and there'll be no hiding place. Go now.
When they have gone, quickly lost in the blizzard, the brothers head up the glen, over the frozen burn to the high ground above Achnacone. Here they find more frightened women and children and urge them on up Glaun Yiach. Among them are Evelyn and Neil. Unknown to Duncan, they managed to escape from the back of the house when the first shots were fired.
Leave me. I'll only slow you down.
Come on, take my arm.
I can't.
Neil, help me. Wait. Neil!
Go on, Mother. I'll find you afterwards. Go.
Neil, what are you doing?
I'm going to kill Campbell.
Oh, Neil, come back! Neil! Come back! Neil!
But he is gone, lost in a swirl of smoke from a house where 14 villagers are burned alive after the soldiers grow tired of butchering them.
And when did Major Duncanson arrive in Glencoe?
He and his force marched in from Ballyhoolish at 7 in the morning. By then the killing was over.
And Hamilton?
Delayed by the snowstorm, he says. Hamilton and his column reached Glencoe at 11 that morning, as planned.
As planned?
It is my belief that although they planned the details of the action together, Hamilton and Duncanson always intended that Glenlyon alone should carry out the massacre. Why else would they even consider the possibility of arriving after the slaughter? However, they had not counted on Glenlyon's lack of efficiency.
MacDonald's sons have escaped. The one thing you were specifically ordered to do: ensure that that old fox and his cubs did not get away. And you failed!
Sir, I have organised a head count.
And?
Including McKean himself, there are 38 dead.
38. 38? Is that all? Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
120 heavily armed soldiers of the King's army. And you only managed to kill 38 unarmed civilians.
Some were armed, sir.
There were 300 living here. How did you let him get away?
I don't know, sir.
Have you been drinking?
Highland hospitality, sir. It would be churlish to refuse.
You make me sick, Glenlyon. This whole affair is a complete mess.
There were to be no witnesses. And you've let 250 of them get away. Now you better send your men into the hills to round up any stragglers before they squeal to anyone who cares to listen.
Yes, sir.
It was not Glenlyon's inefficiency alone that let so many escape. The majority of his men were Campbells from Argyll, Highlanders like himself. And whatever personal or clan rivalries they may have had against the MacDonalds, the creed of hospitality was as sacred to them as to any other clan. Murder under trust as great a sin. It was lowlanders mostly, I believe, who did the killing. When the order was given, there were soldiers who killed no one, who turned their backs on running shadows, who heard no frightened breathing in the dark.
Not only the men. High up on the snow-swept crags of the Devil's Staircase, 2 officers of the battalion companies under Hamilton break their swords when they hear what they're to do in Glencoe. Lieutenants Francis Farquhar and Gilbert Kennedy are put under arrest and sent to Glasgow within the week. But they will return to give evidence against Hamilton at the Commission of Inquiry. By late afternoon, the soldiers have gone. The cottages still burn, and the trampled snow about them is red. Before nightfall, some of the villagers creep back down to bury the dead or hide the bodies before proper burial in Elan Munde, the sacred resting place of the Glencoe MacDonalds. Fearful that the soldiers will return, the survivors scatter into the surrounding countryside, frightened, bewildered, and angry. Nobody knows how many die of cold and starvation in the days and weeks that followed. Threatened with transportation to the colonies, the survivors remain in the hills until John MacDonald, now clan chief of the MacDonalds, and less proud and stubborn than his father, travels to Inverary and takes the oath to William. In late summer, the MacDonalds of Glencoe return to the valley to bury their dead on Elan Munde and rebuild their homes. Sitting around their fires, they tell tales of the redcoats' treachery and look forward to the time when they can get their revenge. Neil MacDonald, son of Evelyn, will fight in the small uprising of 1715, where he will die with hundreds of other brave young men, bayoneted by a redcoat. Duncan Campbell leaves the army, but never quite recovers from being knocked over the head by his sergeant, having lost the use of his left arm. Making his way to Liverpool docks, he finds he hasn't enough money for the voyage to Virginia and ends his days a beggar. On June 20th, 1695, 2 months after hearing its last witness, and 3 years after the massacre, the Commission of Inquiry sends its report to King William. It recommends
the prosecution of Lieutenant Colonel James Hamilton, Major Robert Duncanson, Captain Thomas Drummond, and Captain Robert Campbell of Glenlyon for their parts in the massacre.
None are ever brought to justice. Sir John Dalrymple, Master of Stair, Secretary of State for Scotland, and mastermind of the plan to massacre the MacDonalds, is accused by the Commission of exceeding his powers and resigns his office. He dies only months before Scotland and England are joined in the Act of Union in 1707. John Hill, Governor of Fort William, is exonerated by the Commission of Inquiry and retires 3 years later with a knighthood. He dies somewhere in England, and in death, Glencoe may well have been seen in his face. In Murder Under Trust, The Massacre at Glencoe, dramatised for radio by Adrian Bean, the narrator was Tamara Kennedy. The Marquess of Tweeddale was played by John Buick, Colonel Hill by Brian Pettifer, Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton, Jordan Young, Laird of Glenlyon, Matthew Zajac, Alistair McKeon, Paul Young, Lieutenant Lindsay, Martin McBride, Evelyn MacDonald, Julie Duncanson, Duncan Campbell, Ian Robertson, Helen MacDonald, Anne Lacey,